Excellent. So now we have the slider, the frame number, so to speak, simulating this film strip going sideways. And to absolutely simulate that, or to show that clearly, I'm going to go and download this series of scripts or patches from Giulio Piacentino, who codes a lot for Grasshopper and has these wonderful tools, one of which is this bake attributes tool. And download the last one. And you'll find that you'll be using this a lot in your dealings with Grasshopper in general. If you open it up and basically drag it into Grasshopper, you'll find this script with this guy at the end. This is basically the most important part, or the thing you downloaded. And copy it, and then paste it back into your original animation. It's all the way up here. Drag it back down. What it basically is it's a script in a C# that lets you bake Grasshopper objects into Rhino. The exact same thing you can do with middle clicking on geometry and clicking the egg, but it lets you do this programmatically. And the reason we're using this is because we want to bake it whenever new information comes in from the frame number, or we want to bake each frame one by one. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this geometry, this final geometry, both the frame and image, and actually I'll move this out of the way a little bit. It's a little messy, so bear with me, right? I understand, but the key thing is that this is a frame number. And then I'm going to take this geometry and then group them together. This is a group function in Grasshopper that creates a group. I'm going to flatten them before I group them. So now I have a series of singular grouped objects, and I'm going to plug that into the objects one. You can also plug other things in, like colors, layers, names, but since we're going to use this in Illustrator anyways, I'm not going to bother with anything except for the layers. I'm actually going to plug this straight into this guy. What this is when the frame is on frame 12, it'll bake it to layer 12 and onwards. It's relatively straightforward. And then the last thing, the really key thing, is this guy that's plugged into activate. I'm just going to keep this, and this is what will kind of start the process going. So what I'm going to do is then zoom out enough and kind of move the slider back to 1. Now, if I double click on the baked attributes, this is the kind of bake period. It's already baked the initial set of geometry. As I drag this slider slowly sideways, you can see on the left how it's also baking the geometry, so to speak. Now, there are many ways to do this. If you know Hoopsnake, which is another Grasshopper component, or you could go in and automate this by Grasshopper. That's kind of what it's designed for. But I quite like this process because it lets you kind of visualize what you're going through. You're kind of exposing the negative onto the film in some ways. It's kind of an emulsion process. You can see the line work coming through, and if any of you have done darkroom photography, you know kind of what that's like. Okay, almost done. Excellent. So what we have now here is this film strip, and I'm going to turn this bake off. And if I close out Grasshopper temporarily, what you see is this is all static geometry, and this is how grouped. And over here you get this interesting kind of feathering. And you can then export this entire thing into Illustrator and go from there. There you go. I'll export it as an Illustrator drawing. I'll put it into animation. And on the next step is I'll show you how to bring it into Illustrator and Photoshop.